Let's bring in Victoria Greene, Squared Private Wealth CIO and a CNBC contributor. Victoria, so people like the P&C insurers. No one likes the health insurers right now, and UNH is poster child of that. What do you like in the space?
I do. I think there's some drug makers, there's some equipment makers that I like. I think it's been a little bit of a universal sell-off that wasn't quite deserved. You know, we love GE Healthcare, we love AbbVie in the drug space. Abbott Labs isn't a bad place to be in. I know there's a lot of uncertainty on drug pricing, but look, this whole let's negotiate Medicare drug prices, that was a first-term objective, ran into a lot of lobbyists. There's a lot of, moving Medicare is like, turning an aircraft carrier. So I look at this and say, we need to be realistic. Maybe there are some changes, but it may not be this whole wholesale slashing worst case scenario that people see. So we want to be selective in the drug universe, but for us, we see a lot of opportunities, great dividends, quality portfolios, fantastic pipelines. And so for us, it's be a little bit choosy here. It's not universal.
Right. So you like AbbVie in particular, Abbott, GE Healthcare. Why? Why those?
GE Healthcare, I think, is in a phenomenal position. They're not going to have as much trouble with tariffs as people thought. Their Q1 earnings showed that. They have the imaging and their diagnostics to fall back on. And remember, we have this aging population, not only here, but globally. More and more people are going to need treatment as they continue to age and get geriatric. We see that as a huge opportunity set for them as we see continued treatment likely to pick up here. And we think we've finally seen a little bit of a bottoming in the devices market. It's been a bit of a tough haul there. So we're positive on them. We also think they're pretty cheap considering their growth trajectory. They're only about 12% in China. So we think they're a little more insulated to tariffs than what they were getting kind of punished for. I think AbbVie's phenomenally positioned in the Humira, not Humira, they're beyond Humira. They're moving into other areas. Yeah, they lost their exclusivity on that. That's fine. That's 2023 news. Move on. Great quality company. I think it's 8 years before they have another loss of exclusivity. And they're continuing to see Rinvoq get kicked up on a higher pace. And that, to me, is going to continue to drive top line growth.
Last one on healthcare. I want to ask you about a few other parts of the market, but you're actually not that enthusiastic about the weight loss drug makers. Is that a valuation concern?
It is. It's a little bit the MAHA movement. I don't think can be underestimated.
Really?
I don't think RFK hates them, but at the same point, if they have changes in Medicare coverage, if we see, what's going on with CVS and continued negotiation changes, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty. To me, GLP-1 is not going away. I think you face some near-term headwinds that just make us a little cautious. Also, Lilly's definitely not cheap. Novo Nordisk isn't super cheap either. So I think there's better parts of the markets to hide in, and we might get a little more clarity in the next 30 to 90 days. But look, if they're looking to preserve and cut costs in Medicare and Medicaid, they're not going to want to expand coverage to GLP-1. And they're certainly maybe looking to cut it and say, hey, if you want coverage for this, even for diabetes, you need to prove to us you've been on glucose monitoring, you've tried this weight loss plan, put more hurdles up. That just might slow sales. Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about it from that angle. So I'm glad you highlighted that. Going into the weekend, I don't know if you rest. Is there any sports or anything going on? You're looking over the portfolio. We've come all the way back. What do you do now positioning wise? What looks attractive? Is it everything, or have we gotten over our skis here? I think we're a little bit extended here. I'm playing a little bit of defense. Love my dividend stocks. Obviously the China negotiations, are we going to thaw? Are we going to get some more deals? Was this the first of many? But for me, I'm playing some defense. I might, we're more of a hold here. We're not necessarily taking a ton of chips off the table. But if you just look at how far this has ripped, I'm a little bit, I'm more the kind of ride this rip up, but I'm not necessarily taking my cues from Trump saying, buy the market now, it's going to explode next week. Look, we've got a lot of resistance here. I think you got to see what happens with China, but 80% tariffs on China, man, that's still not attractive. If that's the level we end up with, that's not going to help the market rip higher. I think that's going to end up hurting it. And we might get congressional budget updates, which will also be huge.